the residual effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, increases in natural disasters around the globe, and persistently high inflation and the global cost and the high global cost of living. Despite South Africa being snared by its own strong headwinds with devastating floods, the rising cost of living and the energy crisis, there was, however, encouraging signs of recovery as demonstrated by an increase of economic activity during the third quarter of 2022. Promising activity in the agricultural, finance, insurance, real estate, and business services sectors enabled real GDP to expand by 1.6%, and the size of the South African economy now surpasses pre-pandemic levels. The meeting noted several recovery drivers that needed to be sustained going into 2023 and beyond, and these are 1.5 million jobs that were created over the past year and in the year to the third quarter of 2022. Total employment increased by 10.4%. The presidential employment stimulus reached over 1 million participants. The structural reforms aimed at raising growth, attract investment, and create more jobs. Key reforms in the energy, IT, ports, rail, water, and other sectors that are currently underway, which will continue to improve the business operating environment, as well as South Africa's competitiveness as an investment destination. The Just Energy Transition Investment Plan that will pave the way for additional investments into renewable-based energy infrastructure. The 2 billion rand blended finance program, launched by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, working collaboratively with the Land Bank. This blended finance program is designed to address many challenges emerging farmers face. The Presidential Employment Stimulus Initiative, launched as part of the recovery package from the COVID-19 shock, enabling subsistence and small-scale farmers to buy the inputs they need. It's benefited about 100,000 farmers, and the intervention helped to improve household food production. The Council agreed that all social partners need to work hard on the expansion of areas of economic opportunity and employment, and to find practical and sustainable solutions to mitigate load shedding, drawing from international experience, and to alleviate poverty. Just to comment on the current national energy crisis that's facing the country, President Ramaphosa deeply regrets the current energy situation, which has placed the country into stage 6 load shedding. The President acknowledges the frustration of households, parents, and learners who have commenced the school calendar year facing power shortages. The devastation to small businesses and the adverse impact to the economy remains severe for South Africa's recovering economy. On the 15th of December 2022, President Ramaphosa convened a National Energy Crisis Committee comprising of ministers and various technical work stream leads. Whilst the President acknowledged some of the progress made in the executing of elements of the National Energy Plan, he further demanded more urgency and speed in the implementation of all priority areas and actions laid out in the National Energy Plan. To date, President Ramaphosa remains seized with finding a sustainable solution to the current energy crisis. The President has been regularly briefed on the situation at Eskom and on the rollout of the National Energy Plan. More engagements are scheduled for today and tomorrow for a review of the situation and direction on urgent measures that can be undertaken in order to mitigate against the impact of load shedding. Despite the current gloomy state of load shedding, the National Energy Crisis Committee work streams have continued to make progress on several areas aimed at ensuring the sustainability of the grid and finding additional megawatts. On Tuesday, the 17th of January 2023, President Ramaphosa will lead a delegation of ministers and South African captains of industry to Davos, Switzerland, where he will participate at the World Economic Forum events, in which he will lead the promotion of South Africa as an investment destination of choice. This year's theme is cooperation in a fragmented world. The president will be accompanied by ministers Pando, Kotongwana, Patel, and Kubai. The South African delegation to WEF will add the country's voice to discussions about global issues with the overall aim to position South Africa as a competitive business destination. President Ramaphosa will participate in the dialogue on economics of women's health, the annual dinner hosted by Professor Klaus and Hilde Schwab. The dinner brings together heads of state, government, and international organizations, as well as members of the Board of Trustees, the International Business Council, and strategic partners. The President will also form part of the annual breakfast meeting of the African heads of state, entitled Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The AFTA is the largest free trade area in the world by area and number of participating countries. Once fully implemented, it will be the 5th largest economy in the world, with the potential to have a combined GDP of more than $3.4 trillion. The engagement at WEF will explore how public-private partnerships can support the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. The President will also attend the annual meeting on investing on infrastructure for resilience. There will also be bilateral meetings, details of which will be provided in due course. Let me end there for now, colleagues, and open the floor to questions.
Hi, Vincent.
Hi, Gert. How are you?
I'm well yourself. Happy
Good
New
to
Year
see
to
you.
you. I just want to know, when the load shedding was discussed yesterday, did the discussion take into consideration the fact that several municipalities are heavily in debt to Eskom and will never be able to repay their debts? Will there be a chance that it will be written off?
Okay.
And what impact will that have on the whole situation then?
Okay. Should we take one more question?
Hi, Vincent. Puleli Treaty Jones, ENCA.
Hi, Pule.
Just wanted to ask about this. I mean, you know, there's a massive electricity price hike on the cards for South Africa this week, with NERSA having to make potentially a shoot from, with Eskom asking NERSA to increase tariff hike from 15% to 32%. Is this something you're worried about? I mean, you remember in the UK, government had to intervene when there was an issue of, you know, energy prices skyrocketing. Is this something the president may want to look into urgently, particularly because you spoke about the issue of cost of living and South Africans are bearing the brunt of this? And secondly, will the president also engage the Minister of Basic Education? I mean, schools reopened this week, but you've seen how there's been, you know, snake-long queues. The application system also seems to be experiencing a lot of challenges. This has also now spilled over to other schools in Tshwane, where we're hearing issues of, you know, racial tensions due to the system. Is this something the president may urgently look to speak to the Minister of Basic Education about? Yeah, that's it for now. Thanks.
Okay. Terence, should we run with those, or do you want to take one or two from the virtual platform? Are you happy for me to proceed just with those two, or you want to take one or two from the virtual platform?
There's one more question that came through a WhatsApp message from Stembi Lekele of Bloomberg News. Please, may you just elaborate on the engagements which will get underway on energy? Who will the president be meeting with exactly? That's all.
Okay. Gert, discussions are underway and they're ongoing with respect to what happens to that municipal debt. More details will be provided by the Minister of Finance, hopefully in his budget address. It's still early to give a definitive response in that regard at the moment. Is it a matter of concern? Of course it is a matter of concern. That amongst the many challenges that Eskom is facing, there is an issue of non-payment from municipalities, which needs to be addressed, and needs to be addressed quite urgently. So there is concern around that issue, but it is an issue that's being addressed, and it will require a sustainable approach going forward. So those discussions are underway. Pule, with respect to the NERS tariff hike, of course, the president is worried about the rising cost of living, and in a way, the current state of load shedding, with its impact on the economy, further exacerbates some of those dynamics. But at this stage, the president cannot interfere with that process because it is a statutory process. Eskom does need the money, and the president is mindful of the severity of consumers paying more for electricity that they do not have. Having said that, we need to sustain the funding of Eskom from multiple sources, including the users, in order to enable Eskom to fund its maintenance, fund its various programs that are currently underway. So it is an issue of concern, one that the president cannot interfere with at the moment. It's a statutory process that NERSA has to undertake. You will know that the number of court orders that ordered NERSA to grant Eskom some of the increases that they applied for. And as I've said, Eskom does need the money and is in need of funding. And therefore, there's a balance that has to be maintained. And the president is very alive to the pain of having to pay more from a consumer perspective for power that is intermittent in its availability. And as we continue to drive solutions around the sustainability or the reliability of the grid, we hope that that pain will be alleviated. With respect to challenges facing admission of learners into schools, our understanding so far is that that's been a challenge primarily experienced in Gauteng. And our understanding is that authorities in Gauteng are addressing the issue. The Minister of Basic Education is also attending to the issue. At this stage, it will not be prudent for the president to seek to micromanage that process because it's something that the province has been dealing with, and it's something that the province year on year continues to seek and drive improvements on. It is unfortunate that at the start of the school calendar year, some learners could not be absorbed, but it is something that the president remains reasonably comfortable that it will be attended to, and it will be attended to with a great deal of urgency and speed. Tembile asked about the engagements. So the president has been regularly briefed on the situation at Eskom. He's had several engagements with Minister Pravin Gordhan. There will be meetings later on today, net joints meetings, and over the next day or so, there may very well be meetings of the National Energy Crisis Committee, as I've indicated, to look at urgent measures that can be taken, but also to give more direction with respect to the execution of the National Energy Plan.
Mr. Magwenya, there's a hand on the virtual platform from Professor Anton Heber.
Yeah.
Prof, you may go ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to ask about the SABC board. There's been 3 months without a board, so there's some urgency for the presidency to finalize this matter. Can you tell us when this might happen and what the delay is?
Okay, we'll take another question.
There's another one on a WhatsApp platform from Amanda Koza of Sunday Times. This week, President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed the National Coronavirus Command Council, NCCC, will meet to discuss the new variant detected in South Africa this week. I'd like to know if the NCCC did meet, when did it meet, and what was discussed in the meeting. Is the President concerned about the new variant? Thanks.
Okay, Terence, can we take another question, please?
From the floor, I think Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much again, Terence, for the opportunity. Mr. Magwenya, just 2 last questions from my side. Is the President addressing the nation anytime soon on the load shedding crisis? Just like you said, there's meetings today of Nat Joins and the Energy Committee that will be looking into some of these issues in the country. And maybe just lastly, can we expect any cabinet reshuffle? Is it on the cards soon? Yeah, just maybe a response to those 2 questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me start with Ipule. Cabinet reshuffle, I think the President has been quite clear on this one, that he's applying his mind, and when he has done so, he will announce how he has chosen to exercise his prerogative in this regard. The President is mindful of, I suppose, the kind of urgency that has been expressed, but nonetheless, he is applying his mind as he should, and he will exercise that prerogative, being guided by the interest, by the best interest of the country. Addressed to the nation, at this stage there are no plans to do so. Instead, there are a number of engagements, as I've mentioned, that are aimed at finding solutions to the energy crisis. And this has been an ongoing process in that regard. Should there be any need for the President to address the nation, we will announce that as we often do. But at this stage, there are no such plans. Amanda and CCC, yes, the meeting did happen on Tuesday the 10th of this month, where the President was brought up to speed with regard to the recent discovery of this variant of concern, and the President was satisfied that at this stage there is no need for panic. The discovery is in the course of ongoing research that our scientists are conducting around the pandemic. As you all know, South Africa has been a leader in this regard. This is not the first time that South Africa has alerted the world to the existence of a new variant, even though this variant does have presence in a number of countries, but this was more specific to its existence in South Africa. As things stand, there are no concerns with regards to the rapid spread of the pandemic. However, what is important to emphasize is for members of the public, those who have not vaccinated, to do so. Those who have vaccinated to continue to get their booster shots. And let's continue with those non-clinical preventative measures, washing our hands regularly, and those who feel that they will better protect themselves by wearing masks, they can do so. But at the moment, that does not fall under any compulsory measures that will be adopted. So I hope that answers your question, Amanda. Prof, the SABC board, absolutely. There is an appreciation of the urgency of finalizing that process. It is being finalized. There was a slight administrative and logistical delay towards the end of last year. Having said that, an announcement, I will say, is quite imminent in that regard. I can't give the exact timeline, Prof. You'll have to forgive me, but safe to say that an announcement is imminent and that process is being finalized. And we regret the inconvenience to the public broadcaster. And there is a great deal of urgency to ensure that we sustain the stability that has been achieved or attained around the public broadcaster. Did I forget a question, Terence? Or I think I've covered all of them.
I think you've covered them all, but there is another one on the virtual platform from Lindsay Dingler. I think let's give you a chance to ask a question. Lindsay, you may go ahead.
Vincent. I'm being a bit cheeky. I see Mr. Makwala, the ESCOM chairperson, is online with us at the moment. Would it be possible for him to share with us the kind of solutions that you have been referencing that are being considered to mitigate the breakdowns and the resultant load shedding? Thank you.
Okay, before Mr. Makwala does that, and he will have to indicate maybe in the chat box whether he will be able to do so, but let me give him some time to breathe and maybe process his thoughts in thinking through your cheekiness, Lindsay. But I just wanted to take you through some of the progress that we've been able to achieve through the National Energy Crisis Committee. And it's difficult to appreciate when we're in the middle of stage 6 load shedding, but it is nonetheless important to demonstrate that there is work that is being done. So, for example, the areas of progress that are noteworthy are the following. We have removed the licensing threshold through amendment to Schedule 2 of the Electricity Regulatory Act. This was gazetted on the 15th of December 2022. A dedicated team in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, DPWI, has been established to work closely with ESCOM Transmission to expedite expropriation and servitudes. The Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure has in the last 2 months signed notices of intent to expropriate for 27 parcels of private land. 46 servitudes on DPWI land are being processed, of which 22 will be finalized this month. Furthermore, ESCOM has identified up to 1,000 megawatts of additional power to be imported from Mozambique and other countries in the SADC region, pending negotiations and regulatory approvals. This is in addition to the 300 megawatts already secured through the Southern African Power Pool. Significant potential capacity has already been identified for the standard offer and emergency generation program. About 1,600 megawatts there is the potential to be developed by ESCOM. This will be implemented as a matter of urgency by the utility as no NERSA concurrence is required. A net billing framework and a feed-in tariff is being developed to credit customers for any surplus energy they are able to feed into the grid. This is targeting residential as well as commercial and industrial installations. Further consultations are planned for the current month of January to finalize arrangements with a broad range of stakeholders. Independent team has been assembled to diagnose challenges at power station level, including former power station managers, starting at Duba, Kusile, Kriel, Tutuka, Henrina, and Matla. The team is working with the management and the board of Eskom. The process to improve the availability of spare parts and expertise from original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, through more agile procurement is underway to source services from OEMs at Tutuga, Majuba, Kendal, and Gusile. The process of excluding transmission infrastructure from the requirement to obtain environmental authorization countrywide in areas of low and medium environmental sensitivity has been completed. The net joints is coordinating the work of multiple agencies to address sabotage, theft, and fraud at Eskom. Some arrests have been made, with progress driven by increased deployment of private security by Eskom. That's just a bit of color, and just to give you a sense of the work that has been undertaken and completed with regards to executing the National Energy Plan. Terence, has the chair given an indication that he would like to comment?
No indication yet, Mr. Magwenya.
No indication yet.
Yeah, actually, may I also raise one thing? It seems like we're having a technical challenge with the raising of the hand. May I encourage sharing questions in the chat box just to mitigate this challenge of the raising of the hand?
Okay.
Yeah.
Apologies for that. We seem to be struggling technically with identifying hands that are being raised on the virtual platform. So if colleagues can just quickly type their questions on the chat box, Terence will then pick them up and pass them on to me. Are there any other questions here from the floor? Gert and Pula look happy. So maybe let's take two or more or so, Terence, and then wrap up.
Actually, we have sorted out the hand raising issue, and we don't see any hands so far.
Okay. That's quick and short. Gert?
Naledi?
Let's just get the mic to Gert. Thank you.
Will there be any comment on the video that was shared about the soldiers throwing the corpses on the fire in Mozambique? It has raised quite a lot of concern all over the country and in the African continent. I see that Haga Geingop said it will be investigated, and the result of an investigation will be made known. Do you care to comment on that? Will you care to comment on that?
Yeah, Gert, the images are quite disturbing, and the whole act is quite disturbing and really regrettable and unfortunate. We are now trusting that the authorities that are investigating the matter will do so fairly quickly and get to the bottom of those actions and behavior. As you know, our forces there are part of a SADC mission, and as you've alluded, SADC will be also conducting its own investigation. Our own South African Defense Department has announced its investigation, and we hope that those investigations will be expedited and they will shed light on what exactly transpired and inspired those events. From a South African point of view, those are not actions and behavior that reflects our human rights values as a country and our commitment to human rights, which is a commitment that is enshrined in our Constitution. And so we are anxious to understand what really happened and to get to the bottom of the matter. Pule?
Yeah, maybe just a last question, Mr. Magwenya. With this tariff hike on the cards, let's just say it happens. Does the National Energy Committee of Ministers believe that this could potentially play a role in terms of alleviating or putting a stop to load shedding? Because, like you said, it will mean that the utility will have more funds to exercise it for its programs, amongst others. Do you think that with this hike, if it's to be implemented, would it have a positive effect in the goal or mission to try and stop load shedding in the country?
Pole, my response to that question will be speculative. I mean, I hear you and I hear where you're going, but I'm told that NERSA will be making its announcement in about an hour's time from now. So I'll rather wait until they make their announcement before engaging any further on what could be the impact. Let's rather wait for that detail, otherwise I'll be speculating. Thanks. Yes, Terence?
There is Bongekile of News 24 who would like to raise a question. Bongekile, please proceed.
Chat, but I just wanted, I've spoken to Mr. Magwenya on WhatsApp, but it was unofficial, asking if the president has received a letter from John Steenhuisen, who wants an urgent meeting with him regarding the power crisis. And if the president does receive that meeting, will he be meeting with John Steenhuisen?
Bongegile, the practice is that the president will allocate time and meet leaders of political parties represented in parliament. And this has happened before. Last year, in the build-up to the announcement of the National Energy Plan, there was an engagement between the president and leaders of political parties represented in parliament. I will imagine that should there be a meeting with political parties, it will take on a similar format. Specifically, as things stand, I'm not aware of a letter from Mr. Steenhuisen. Maybe our office has received it, but that information has not reached me right now. But I think if we just focus on the principle more broadly, is the president available to engage with leaders of political parties on matters of national interest? The answer is yes. He always makes that time available for those engagement. And should there be a need for such an engagement, the president will accommodate that need.
No hands so far, Mr. Magwenya. Nothing on the WhatsApp platform. I don't see any hand on the floor.
Okay.
Your call.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And I'd like to wish you all the best for the year ahead, and I look forward to further engagements. Thank you so much.